Hey guys, this is Vignesh Nandakmar, Master's grad student. I'm going to be demonstrating nested virtualization using Ansible today. So let's take a look at the files that I've created to be doing this today. So basically our task at hand today involves deploying a Ubuntu Headless Server and installing various packages on it and creating two new VMs inside the Headless Server, one using Vagrant and the other one using phpVirtualBox. So to create my Headless Ubuntu Server, this is the Vagrant file that I use. As you can see, I'm using a 64-bit Xenial build of Ubuntu, and I assign the IP address, allocate the memory, and I invoke the Ansible playbook play.yaml from here. Now, since our task at hand today involves a lot of subtasks, I thought it would be better to group them into roles and tasks to provide a more modular structure. So, as you can see, inside the roles folder, you can see the four major roles involved today. The first step involves preparing the packages inside the headless server, which would assist us later in our tasks. So the next step would involve installing VirtualBox, and the tasks inside VBox install would take care of it. And once we're done with it, we can move on to installing phpVirtualBox, and finally we can create a new VM using Vagrant, and the tasks for it are involved in spawn_VM folder. So let me walk you through the playbook. As you can see, there are just four roles specified here, and each one of these is invoked in the same order specified. Let's take a look at the prep packages. So as you can see, first we install Python 2, and then we install the necessary packages as listed here. And once it's done, we move on to installing VirtualBox. And as you can see, the tasks are specified here. In the first two tasks of this role, we decide to change the password of user Ubuntu. And as you can see, next we go on to add the VirtualBox repository for Oracle. Then we download the Oracle public key. And then we move on to installing in VirtualBox version 5. And then we have to add our user, that is our user of the Ubuntu Headless Server. Here it is Ubuntu, to the VBox users group. And then we check the status of VirtualBox to see if the service is installed and up and running. And one point to note here is, while installing all packages, I mentioned state equal to present, which does nothing but ensure that the packages aren't installed if they're already present. Basically, this achieves idempotency. No matter how many times I execute this task, the result will still be the same. And I also, for the purpose of idempotency, I check if the virtual pack extension, the extension pack is already installed. And I do that by listing the extension packs, and I store it onto a variable. And but that way I'll know whether if I want to install it or not. And there you go. I download the extension pack and install it. Next, we move on to installing phpVirtualBox. And the first step involves installing the necessary packages for it first. Ensure that state is set to present, and then I create a directory and I download the zip file necessary for phpVirtualBox from the web and move it onto the newly created directory, and I set the necessary permissions for the directory. And once it's done, I have to configure my phpVirtualBox to run for my user. So I go into the config.php file and add in my username and password to be able to access it. And once that's done, I restart these three services: VBox Web Service, VBox DRV, and Apache 2, and we're good to go. And we should be able to use a phpVirtualBox. In my final task that involves creating a VM using Vagrant, here as you can see, I first need to install Vagrant, and after that I initialize a new VM by specifying the build for it. And since Vagrant inside a Vagrant supports only a 32-bit system, I initialize Ubuntu Trusty 32 system. And before I power it up, I configure the Vagrant file to boot up a little quickly. And once it does, I fire it up by giving Vagrant up. Alright, now let's take a look at the demo and working. In the terminal, so the first Vagrant up here ensures that the headless server is set up. And now the tasks inside the playbook have started getting invoked. As you can see, Python 2 is getting installed. It has been completed successfully. Now the other necessary packages for our Ubuntu headless server is getting installed. And we have successfully changed the password of user Ubuntu, and now VirtualBox version 5 is getting installed. Now the extension pack for VirtualBox has also been installed. Now we have moved on to the next task that involves installing phpVirtualBox. The necessary packages are getting installed first. And after this installation is complete and the configuration file is changed, the necessary services are being restarted. And we have successfully installed phpVirtualBox. Now we move on to the last part of it, which involves installing Vagrant and provisioning a VM using Vagrant. As you can see, virtual VM has been initialized and it's getting booted up. So just to clarify for the viewers who are watching this at the moment, the VM that is being booted up right now is a 32-bit Ubuntu system. And basically, at this step, we are provisioning a VM inside a provisioned VM. Alright, the VM has now been booted up. We can verify this by going into the phpVirtualBox. We log into it. And there you can see this is the VM that's running right now that has been provisioned by Vagrant. And we can verify this by going into the Headless server and it shows you're in the Headless server. Now we SSH into the newly provisioned VM and there you go. You can see that now you're in the newly provisioned VM. Okay, you're coming back to the host.